That was fast.
What's up, guys? This is Chris here, and today we're going to be talking about a very interesting pistol, the Smith & Wesson Carry Comp 9mm. Now, this was a new gun for 2024, and we've had it for about a year now. We've been shooting it off and on, and we have a lot of rounds through this gun. It's actually one of the guns that my nephew Bubs, who works for us, trains on, and it actually is his favorite gun. Now, I do want to mention that I did get this from Smith & Wesson for review, and that won't change anything. You're going to see everything, and you're going to hear the good, the bad, and in some cases, the ugly. So with that said, let's get right into the review. Now, this is a fascinating gun because it fits into an interesting niche where you could pretty much do everything with it. Small enough to carry, big enough to fight with, and enough features to match any modern pistol. The Smith & Wesson M&P series as a whole has a solid track record. Been out, I believe, since 2006 or 2007, well over 20 years now, being an excellent polymer frame striker-fired pistol that competes with Glock, SIG, and many other companies. When the M&P came out, it was sort of the other, and now it is sort of the one, in my personal opinion. Sort of like a Glock, but with a lot more features and a better grip angle and more American attributes than your average European pistol. Also happens to be made right here in America, in Maryville, Tennessee. Now, this gun, as I said, is about a year old, and we have almost 2,000 rounds through it, but we only have about 1,000 rounds worth of footage because Bubs kept taking it and shooting it at indoor shooting ranges to practice to look better for you guys on the channel.
All right, Bubba, you're up.
All right.
Bubba and his favorite gun.
Man, I really like this thing.
That was cool.
Was it?
Now, in that 2,000 rounds, we had some pretty excellent reliability, which we'll get into here in a minute. But first, I'm going to hit you with some specs. So this has a 4.2-inch barrel, very similar to the same length as a commander size 1911. I think that was actually done on purpose. A very classically excellent slide in barrel length. We have a 28-ounce overall weight with an aluminum frame here with polymer grip inserts. We also have an optics mounting system that comes with 6 or 7 different plates right out of the factory. You can put Leopold on there, you can put Trijicon on there, you can put SIG optics on there, you can put all sorts of different optics mounting systems. Now, one of the downsides to the optics mounting system is the plates are in fact plastic. However, we've never had one break, but if you want to use it for serious long-term use, you might want to look into a metal plate. But it's pretty cool that it comes with it right out of the factory because most guns these days, including Walther and HK, do not do that. Now, what separates this from the compact versions of the standard M&P, aside from the aluminum frame, is going to be the carry comp, because it's in the name, in fact. So here on the front of the gun here, we have a large single port compensator, which actually works really well. Single port comp into the barrel and then into the slide as well, with some relief cuts on the slide there. I don't know if that's supposed to work as a muzzle brake or if it's just supposed to look good, but either way, it works pretty well, as you can see in the footage. Slide cuts here in the middle of the slide to help you do the pinch grip, which I actually like because I use that. We have relief cuts on the top to make the slide lighter and lower that reciprocating mass. Good cuts on the back, and then we have some carry fins, very HK VP9 there, and a phenomenal set of sights. We have an HD front with a blacked out rear, and then a Trijicon RMR riding up top. Picatinny rail in the front there for lights and lasers and all sorts of fun stuff. We ran an X300 on there for a lot of the shooting. Very, very good 2.0 trigger. This is a performance center gun, by the way, so it's going to have the best M&P trigger that you can get, and in which case this does not disappoint. One of the better triggers on a carry gun that you can get. I would put this a little bit under the VP9 Canic PDP pre-cock striker guns, but in my personal experience, the M&P has a much lower recoil impulse to make up for that. Now down here on the grip, we have no texture on the grip, which we'll talk about again here in a minute. And then we have grip inserts on the front, a polymer grip insert with the same texture as the M&P 2.0, and then your classic backstrap system that you can pull out and exchange if you want to. And I have the beaver tail one on there because I have a little bit bigger hands, and I like that. Takedown lever on the side here, which in my opinion is superior to Glock. If you get these muddy and dirty, this is a really good way to go. You can ram that down and get the gun unclogged and open it up and clean it out. Ambi slide releases on either side, and then a swappable magazine release if you are a left-handed shooter. Now, as I mentioned before, this is Bubs' favorite gun, and the reason for that is because it's just big enough for his relatively big hands, but it's still small enough for him to carry. But the real reason for that is because we shot 2,000 consecutive rounds through this gun with 0 malfunctions, which is extremely impressive, considering we used low-powered ammo. We used 115 grain, we used 124 grain, and in some cases we used some 147 grain subsonic, and in all cases the M&P ran extremely well, which honestly is what I come to expect from M&Ps. The reason why I in fact carry an M&P is because I believe that they are the most reliable polymer frame pistol that I've ever shot. Now, the reliability of the gun was absolutely excellent, and I feel like that's the first reason that sort of separates it from some of the pre-cock striker guns, maybe even like the PDP and the Canic. Those guns shoot really well and have really good triggers and really good accuracy, but in my personal experience, slightly less reliable than the M&P series, which is why I personally count on it for self-defense. Now, the second thing I loved about the gun was the accuracy. The accuracy was really, really good.
Nice.
The trigger itself aids in that. A lot of times when you're thinking about accuracy, you're thinking about the accuracy a person can get out of the handgun, not the inherent mechanical accuracy. Not that you can put it in a vise and shoot 3 rounds into a piece of paper and it's, oh, that one has 1.5 inches versus the PDP that's got 1.25. No, it's what you can get out of it, why you shoot offhand, why you shoot kneeling, why you shoot prone, and the accuracy that you get on a regular basis shooting the gun, because that's the real situation you're going to be in. If you're in a self-defense situation, a competition situation, or you're just shooting to try to impress your friends, you're probably not going to have it in a vise. So in which case, the accuracy of a gun, as far as a user standpoint goes, has less to do with the barrel, in my opinion, and more to do with the trigger. And the trigger on the M&P 2.0, it's one of the better triggers that you can get in a polymer gun. So you can see here, very light break, probably about 3.5, 4 pounds, and then a very, very consistent and smooth reset. Now here's one of the cons of the M&P. As you can see here, when I reset this, there's a tactile feel. I can feel it reset, which is all I really need at my point in my life as far as experience with guns, but there is not an audible reset. So if you're training on this gun and you're new to it, that might be a bit of an issue, or if you're used to that preference of having an audible reset, you're not really gonna get one on this. Now newer versions, the most recent versions, I believe have fixed that a little bit. However, in this version, there's not an audible reset. So you're gonna have to train that reset in. You should be doing that anyway, but that can be a con in some cases. Now, other than that, it's very accurate and it's actually very, very fast. That's probably the best shooting M&P, to be honest with you. Size to weight ratio, nice little compact gun. It adds about 1 ounce or 2 more weight with the aluminum frame, although I don't think that makes much of a difference as far as shootability. What I personally think makes a difference is the trigger reset and then that compensator. I think this compensator on this gun is better than the Canic. I think it's better than the PDP, and I think it's better than the SIG. I think this is personally the lowest recoiling striker-fired gun in that class that you can shoot. They did a great job on the comp, and I think the classic single port, not fucking around, not trying to put 3 little holes in it like Canic, not trying to cut it in the slide but not in the barrel, there's advantages to that. But as far as recoil control goes, the classics sometimes work the best, and in this case, I believe it does, and I think the footage can probably speak for itself. Now, another great thing that helps out with the recoil control is the M&P in general is a very soft shooting platform, which is what I always try to say, because if I pair the Glock, the M&P, the SIG 320, the Canic, and the VP9, probably the 5 big kings of like the polymer frames striker-fired world, I believe the M&P has lower recoil, and at least the people that work with me agree with that. Now, one of the cons of this gun in particular, they have fixed on the most recent steel frame version. This is an aluminum alloy version, whereas the new version this year is a competition version that came out with a steel frame. That actually has some texture on the grip here, and this one does not. And I would consider that probably my least favorite part about this gun is that it has no texture right here. And I use a lot of my recoil control with my left hand. You know, my left hand slides up right there. Sometimes I do feel it sliding around where it should be sticking right there. Now, one of the things you can do to that, they make aftermarket grips that you can stick in there, which I will end up doing. The texture right there is definitely lacking. Now, as far as that goes, that I can handle because I can put grips on it. And honestly, without the texture, we shot it really, really well because you still have a lot of texture right here. That being said, it could be done better, and it has very recently with the steel frame. Now, getting into the ergonomics of the pistol. As far as the sighting setup goes, I really like the sighting setup. The plates are plastic, but they worked really well. We shot 2,000 rounds through it. It didn't lose zero. The slide cuts and everything feel great. The trigger guard is large and easy to use if you have gloved hands. Two things that I noticed on other reviews that I didn't personally experience, but I did want to mention. Number one, I saw a couple of people where the slide release seemed to be catching at the end. So they would fire the gun and the slide release would push itself up and the gun would get locked like this with a round in it, and they had to hit the slide release to keep running the gun. Now, I didn't experience that at all, and I actually have a couple buddies who have this gun and they didn't experience that either, but I did see that on one video. I think it was the Humble Marksman. Also, another video I noticed they had a insert in the front here pop out and fall out while shooting. Now, I didn't experience that either, but mine is a little bit wobbly. So that is one thing to know about the aluminum frames. This is one of the first iterations of the aluminum frame, and it has been updated, but this here is a little bit wobbly, and that's not really a big deal, but also I'd prefer it wasn't wobbly. And I'm sure you could stick some super glue in there and cover that up, or wrap the whole thing in grip tape, but either way, I just wanted to point it out. Not big cons, but cons nonetheless. Now, as far as the aluminum frame goes, is that a huge upgrade over polymer as far as shootability? Nope, not really. As a matter of fact, a lot of times I actually prefer the polymer grip because of the flex and because sometimes it doesn't give me as much vibration in my hands shooting long periods of time. But it does make it look real good, and I do appreciate that as well. And honestly, you don't really notice any difference. The average person, if they're shooting this gun, I don't think they would notice whether it was an aluminum frame or a polymer frame. So is the aluminum frame really worth the money upgrade? I would say probably not. But is this gun worth it? I would say yes, it is, because I think the comp that you get, I think the slide cuts that you get, and I think the trigger that you get on this gun is definitely worth the MSRP of around $900 to $1,000. That's on average $200 to $300 more expensive than your average Glock pistol, but you get a shitload more for it as well. You get 2 magazines with the gun, but you do get it comped out of the factory. You do get the slide cuts. You do get the optics mounting systems. You do get tritium sights out of the factory, and then you do get a performance center trigger. And if you were going to do all that to your M&P, you probably pay that much, if not more, and you can get it out of the box just like this and not have to worry about some weird shoddy shop somewhere gun up. The other great things that you get out of this gun is you get long-term reliability and durability. The M&Ps are one of the most durable, reliable, and time-tested pistols out there on the market, probably second only to the Glock in my personal opinion as far as track record with at least law enforcement agencies. Many law enforcement agencies, not only in this country, but all around the world, run the M&P series because of its simplicity, reliability, and most of all, price. It's an extremely affordable gun for the what gun you get out of it. And as far as super guns go, getting a competition style pistol with slide cuts, a comp, and a trigger like this with an optics mount under $1,000 is very, very good. And there's only few guns that can compete with that, maybe the TTI Combat or the PDP Pro X. Overall, I think it's a pretty good gun. It has a couple drawbacks here and there, but I'd probably give it a solid 9.5 out of 10 because honestly, you can use the gun for literally anything. 28 ounces, 4 1/4 inches, you could carry that all day with no problem. That's lighter than almost any Commander frame 1911, and those have been carried for over 100 years. On top of that, you could pop in a capacity between 15 and 26 rounds, super easy, have all the capacity you need to handle any situation, and it also takes the larger size Smith & Wesson magazines as well, so you really have a lot of options with this gun. You can compete with it, you can carry it, you can use it for home defense, you can pretty much handle everything, and it handles it in style, because the last pro is that it looks really, really good in my opinion. Overall, one of the better M&Ps we've ever had on the channel, 0 malfunctions in 2,000 rounds, able to hit accurately past 100 yards, and quick as a cat. I like the gun, and I would definitely recommend you getting it if you're interested. But if you don't like the ergonomics of the gun, keep in mind that there are other options today. There are 320s if you don't like the gun being drop safe. There are PDPs, which feel really good, and they have a little bit different ergonomics and a little bit different features out of the box. And then the Canic is also a solid win as far as a comp gun out of the box as well. But those are going to be a little bit bigger versions, whereas the carry comp is actually small enough to carry, because that's what it's for. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. Please help out your local homeless shelters, and remember to recycle. I'll check you later.